Even if you don't make it to the top of the mountain, the person you become in the pursuit of that has a ripple effect on this world. Welcome to another episode of Seek Your Summit. Today, we're turning up the heat with chef, entrepreneur, and creative force, Jeff Mahin. You might know him from his award-winning restaurants and TV features, but now he's cooking up something brand new right here in Park City, Chomp Donuts. So excited. And let me tell you, it's not just donuts, it's an experience. What I love about Jeff is that he's not afraid to take risks, to reinvent himself, and to push limits of what's possible, whether it's in the kitchen, business, or life. In this conversation, Jeff takes us behind the scenes of high-pressure leadership, what failure really tastes like, and why chasing flavor and chasing purpose has more in common than you may think. Isn't that fun?
That was probably the best intro I've ever had.
Yay! I love intros.
Anytime I meet someone new, I'm just going to bring you along and be like, there you go.
Cute Jen.
She'll introduce me.
Yeah, cute Jen. She's got the introduction down. I love it. Okay, so you've built an incredible career as a chef and entrepreneur. What moment early on lit the fire for you when you realized food could be more than just a job?
So funny enough, I actually got into the restaurant business and started cooking before I even liked food.
Really?
I guess I liked food as a kid. You know, my dad, we grew up in a household where we didn't have hamburgers or hot dogs. We ate mostly like sushi or Chinese food, like takeout. My dad was an engineer and spent a lot of time in Asia. So we didn't have lasagna. We had, Thai food.
Cool.
And, but I really actually just like the environment of a kitchen. And that was sort of what drew me to it. I had some trouble in high school. I was a rebellious kid, sort of like any kid in the 90s, And I found there's this chaos mixed with a ton of structure in kitchens. And it was very binary, right? You either did a really good job or you didn't do a good job. And so that's sort of what drew me to the restaurants in the very beginning. And then, food is really hard. There's plenty of people who are like, oh, this is my favorite bread. And in, my inside voice, I'm like, that's not good bread at all, right? Food is really taught. And so I grew up in a really small town where you didn't have much exposure to good food. And so the more I worked in restaurants and the more, I had this mentor-y, student relationship where someone's like, try this is good. And you're like, oh, I understand food isn't just about eating and consuming it and be like, oh, I'm going to go on to my next thing. And that you can actually kind of like an art form or something else is that you can really enjoy it and understand the subtleties and sort of what makes something good or bad. And it took me a long time to actually love food the way I do now, even though I love the chaos of the restaurants.
Yeah, no, but as you love food more, do you find it harder to eat other places or easier to try new things?
Can I maybe a yes or no answer to that? Maybe both. I think a normal journey of I'm making something for myself or if I go out to eat, I have no expectations. I just eat and, I'm not looking to be wowed or, I guess it's like being a painter and you just see a painting in your house, you're like, oh, it's really pretty, right? And you don't think about the brush strokes or anything else like that. But then there are times where I have no expectations and I go into a restaurant and I'll have something and I'm totally blown away by it. And it happens few and far between, and not saying that I have this high expectations of things, but you've eaten so many different places or hiked so many places and something, and all of a sudden you stumble across something and you're like, this is special, right? Yeah. And I think that's really the exciting part now is, finding people who love to cook and go into a restaurant and seeing what they make and sort of getting inspired or, just sort of loving food. It's not about a judging. It's more of oh my God, this is really good this, or this is really good that. So.
Yeah. No, our family all of a sudden somehow became connoisseurs of Caesar salad dressing.
Oh my God.
The dressing, awesome. Right? And so we have tried to find this dressing forever. We worked with this chef and he made it. And I finally convinced him to come back over. He won't give me the recipe. He's like, but I'll teach you how to make it.
I'll go talk to him.
I'll get it, right? So he comes over and we're zesting the lemon and all this kind of stuff. I mean, my normal meal is Fruity Pebbles cereal. Okay. So
I don't believe that.
But it's pretty funny how you can all of a sudden crave a certain thing and then everything gets judged from that.
Exactly.
Right? And so now we have this dressing.
That's that taught behavior, right? Is once you're exposed to something that's like, here's the pinnacle of this, right? And then you're able to compare it and say, this is the best bread made by the best baker from the best oven, the best thing in France with the best flour. And then so now it doesn't mean that it's bad comparison, but you sort of know what it's looking like. So now you have this pursuit of Caesar salad dressing, which I have a love in my heart for Caesar salad dressing.
I do. And we like did it without anchovies because my kids didn't like it. And like, it's just so, and he was teaching me all the different ways that you could put it together. Like we put Worcestershire sauce in it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Yeah.
Did
it was
he tell
awesome.
you where Caesar salad dressing was from?
I don't know if we got into that.
Do you know where it's from?
I do not.
It's funny. It's actually from Mexico.
Is it really?
Yeah,
I would have
yeah.
never guessed that.
It's not an Italian thing. It was an Italian guy who had a place in Mexico, and the internet will tell me I'm a liar or whatnot, but this is the story that I heard. So they were filming a movie on a set, and it was an Italian guy who had a place in, I think, Baja, California, in Mexico, and they didn't have a lot of stuff, and they brought a bunch of people in, and he kind of threw this thing together, and that was sort of the start of Caesar salad dressing.
Wow. Well, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
I'm definitely hooked, for sure.
It's delicious.
Yes. Okay, so what's a lesson you learned in the kitchen that's also true in life?
Oh, failure, just
Failure.
over and over again. And it's just refinement. I think recipes are the same as life is, you can make a great Caesar salad dressing and then, you can choose to just be like, I'm satisfied and be complacent and never change it. Or you can use life experience or just, you don't have to change the recipe. You just kind of just enhance it and it has an evolution of itself. And I think life is the same way of like, you have this, I guess how I think of recipes is I have this idea in my head, just as such as life, right? And my idea in my head, I'd be a movie star, F1 pilot, and skydiver. I'm not none of those things. So but you have this idea in your head of what you want to be or how you want to create something, and you kind of pull together thoughts and you try it, and there's trial and error, and then you taste it, and sometimes there's personal bias, right? Like I'll taste something, I'll be like, I've worked on this thing for a month. I'm like, it's good enough, and then I'll give it to someone else, and they're like, it isn't good enough. And then you're like, and so I think this idea of being able to be vulnerable and sort of present something to people, whether it's in life or in recipes, it's the same idea of like, here's me. I clearly need improvement all the time personally.
Right. All of us.
Just like
all
recipes. And it's this idea that it's just, you're never finished. You can always keep doing it and you can keep refining it. And, failure is just part of the whole process.
Yeah, we have a failure cake at my house.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do. Because I'm like, we need to celebrate failures because this is the fact of life and this is how it goes. And one time I even made the failure cake wrong because I forgot to add the water. I don't know why, but also we're like, why isn't it filling up the pan like it normally does? So,
I think that's a perfect thing.
It was good. And like, I love that you're just saying we need to reiterate and like look at things and how do we shift and change because it's the tiniest little ingredient that can make the thing taste entirely different.
And, it depends who makes it, right? So it's like how you interact with people. Like I have a different interaction with different people in my life. And there's people that I'm really quiet around. There's people that I am overly animated around. And like, I think recipes are the same way. Like I could give you the Caesar salad dressing recipe. And if I don't teach you the method and if we don't do it hand in hand and, even if you make it 100 times, it's going to be slightly different than what I make it, right? And so such is life. And I think that's like the fun part about kitchens, and again, it's in life. Is like I got kicked out of high school. I was, like I said, like sort of like a bad kid, and there wasn't a lot of options for me, right? And so there wasn't like, oh, should you become a doctor, or like it was like you can go to the military, jail, or restaurants. Like those are the three.
I'm glad that you picked restaurants.
Like, those were the three, right? And
I have a daughter that those are those same options.
Yeah,
and I'm not, like, we're going to run a company or a chain gang. I just don't know what one yet.
I mean, but those are really it. Like I remember there was this college speech that my dad made me listen to, and they talked about to the A students and are like, congratulations, straight A students, you're graduating from a prestigious university. You're going to go out there and get a 6-figure job right away. You're going to go do all these different things. B students, maybe you missed a few classes, so on and so forth. And then they got to like the C and D students, and you went to the same classes, and maybe you had a job, maybe you didn't care, maybe you partied, maybe you have life experience, maybe you have 2 kids that you were balancing. But you have a choice. You can go hire those A and B students by creating your own companies, or you can kind of just stay the D students. I've always thought about that of like, it's, if you follow the rules all the time, it doesn't allow you to break the rules, right? And so sometimes as entrepreneurial students, they're afraid to make mistakes or afraid of failures because they were so regimented to it. I'm not trying to tell anyone don't get straight A's.
Yeah. That's not the message.
That's not the message. But this idea that like, if that's not your path, then there are so many other paths, and it doesn't have to be the defined one that everyone else takes.
Right. Yeah. No, I like that.
No.
My kids are listening right now, getting permission to do things otherwise that they wouldn't have. But no, I like it.
But that's probably the greatest life lesson I've ever heard. Again, from my dad. I got kicked out of high school, and I was like, why aren't you mad?
Public high school?
Public high school.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic, right? But like my dad is a PhD professor, or was a professor, right? My mom had a PhD, like, so it's like a highly educated family,
academic
right?
family.
Yeah,
Yes.
and here's the kid who, freshman year gets kicked out of high school with a GED.
I love it.
And like, I was just like, I looked at my dad, I'm like, why aren't you mad? And he goes, because you're getting old enough to make your own life decisions, and you can choose how hard or easy this life is. And it was just like, and it was like so profound to be like, yeah, you can make bad decisions. It just makes everything just a bit harder,
Yeah.
Or you can make good decisions and things get easier. And I think like, I took that with my work ethic and everything of just like, just the harder the more you give to something, like whether it's recipes or life, the more
it gives
typically
back.
you get back out of it.
Yeah. I think a big lesson for me was realizing that it doesn't always come back in the same place.
Oh yeah.
Right? So even though I'm putting a ton of effort in there, something else gets easier in the chain. Yeah. And I just have to remind myself, like, this is easier because of the heart I did there. It doesn't always come back that same place.
Absolutely. I love that.
Okay. So the kitchens and restaurants are notoriously tough.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, how have you navigated that?
Well, I'm a pushover. They're tough, but it's like a gym or a hike or anything else is tough in life, right? If you don't love being there, it's going to be horrible. But if you love being there and you want to show up every day, like, you go to the gym every day, it's hard, right? But the end result is you feel good, you can move, you can do all these different things. Like, I never viewed it as hard. I mean, there were definitely times where like, I hated my life, right?
It says everybody in any career path whatsoever.
Anything, right? But
yeah,
it's one of those things that it just keeps coming back, and the reward is so much better than anything. I think I've been lucky enough in life to find these people who believed in me, right? And especially in times where I didn't believe in myself. When I was younger and I was like, I wasn't investing in myself, I was partying, I was doing these things, but they were taking the time to invest in me, and they saw potential in me, which again, like I didn't even see in myself. I was just, it was ego or something. I was like, I want to work at the best restaurants. I want to, outperform everyone, but I wasn't doing anything to like grow myself, right? As a leader or just as an individual. But I was lucky enough to find those people, and they taught me. And I think that's a cool part about restaurants, where I can't speak to other career paths, but you can start as a dishwasher, as I did, and you can own 10 restaurants. You can own 100 restaurants. You can become a multimillionaire. You can do whatever you want. Like, it's one of the last career professions that you can really truly start at the bottom and work your way up and, gain this skill that is not found in cookbooks or cooking shows. You see all these people on social media now, they're like, here's this plate, and that's fine, I can recreate it, but like this experience and the effort of like having to work somewhere, having to work 20 hours a day or 16 hours a day to learn how they made a chicken stock or how their idea in food, like those things are now ingrained in you, and it just becomes this life experience of, at a certain point, you then can start teaching back, which I think is the cool part. Is like, so now when I have staff, I get to take this like lifelong, journey of my experiences, and I get to give it to them, right? And then you see this continuation of like, think of a beurre blanc sauce. Like, how old is a beurre blanc sauce? Or, how old is, all these different recipes that have been handed down from generation, from chefs to home cooks to everyone else. And it's just, like, that's how things stay alive. So Caesar salad is a good example. Like, imagine if no one liked it, it would be dead. We wouldn't have Caesar salad. It would be totally different. We would have something else.
Right.
But this one person, this one mythical restaurant that I'm not sure it's fact checked, is now in every household in America, every grocery store, internationally. Like, how cool is that? To take this one idea and then it's now to billions of people.
Right.
So
Right.
I love that.
No, I do love that. And you said like earlier on, mentors found you, which you needed. Are you seeking out mentors now?
Always.
Always. And how do you find a mentor?
I think I try to learn from everyone. And I think that's like an advantage of kind of not having the education or whatnot, is I kind of look to learn from anything and everything, so that's how I grew up. And I've learned tremendous kitchen lessons from people who have no kitchen experience, right? Like I remember there was this time I asked a line cook to, I don't know if anyone knows what a mandolin is, but it's the most dangerous kitchen tool.
Yes.
But you cut your fingertips off. But, it's something that instead of using a knife, you can really make a lot of fine cuts of something. So I was like, all right, here's this whole thing of garlic that we peeled, like mandolin each garlic bulb, for this fried garlic dish we were doing. And I was like, this is going to take this guy like 3 hours because it takes a long time and you had to be delicate. And he kind of smiled at me and walked away. And then like, where are you going? I was kind of mad. I was like, we were having a conversation. And he comes back with a no-cut glove. And like, from my world and this, like, I guess like in the egotistical part of like, chefs don't wear no-cut gloves. Like, unless you're like a butcher in a big factory, like that's like kind of like, lame, like it's like, I don't know, like the equivalent to other things, but you're like, that's dorky. Like you wouldn't have a no-cut glove. And
Dork.
And he just grabs a handful of the garlic and he just starts, just
flaying it
50 at once. And you're like, I would have never thought of that in my entire life. And so like there are people that I use for different parts in mentorship, but like, again, like I try to be so open-minded to think that anyone can teach me anything, or at least inspire a thought to then, make me a better person or make me something that I can learn from. And so like, I'm actively always trying to find inspiring people.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I laugh at this story because I think of when I started my business in finance, I went to a boat show. Okay. And at the boat show, there was
go hand in hand.
Yeah, of course they do. So I'm at a boat show and there's this booth of a company that's selling soap. And the soap that they're selling, they're white labeling for like the marinas. So that if a boat comes in and they want new soap or whatever, then it like puts the name of the marina on there and the phone number and all this kind of stuff, right? I'm like, oh, that's kind of an interesting idea. Yeah. So I get into finance, and a few years into business, one of the guys is like, if you didn't want your name on the product, it might actually open the door to many other avenues because everybody's trying to get their name out of the product and not liquidate their branding. And I thought back to that boat show business, right? I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to do my business as like CU Financial Alliance for credit unions. And then I'm going to let the credit union label the program. I was the only person that was allowing that to be like a white label product. I didn't know what labeling was. I'd only been introduced to it because I'm like, oh, the soap company at the boats, thing, right? And I think it's funny, like if you have that mindset of just absorbing the environment and like ticking all those little memories in your head, you never know when you'll need to recall them.
That's another good life lesson that cooking has taught me. If you say things with enough confidence,
they believe you,
and you keep going forward. You're like, this isn't burnt, this is charred. It's supposed to be like this. We're gonna tell them the secret. It's like, oh no, this isn't undercooked. It's supposed to be a little bit weepy. Like let's hope for the best.
We're in sales, ABC. Always be closing, baby. Always be closing. So you're known for experimentation. Yes.
Depends who you ask.
Yes, I think you are. So where do your best creative ideas come from, and how do you know what ones to trust?
Oh, I don't know if you can trust any of my ideas. It's a great question. Inspiration comes from a lot of different things. And, it took me a long time to get hobbies, I guess, outside of cooking, right? From my 20s to 30s, I didn't do anything but cook. I worked in restaurants 6 days a week. I think everyone like over exaggerates, but I mean, it was really 6 days plus a week, 12 plus hours a day,
Yeah, but what an advantage that is now, right?
Oh, I mean, now I'm just like, I feel 90. So yeah, it's perfect. But like, so I didn't, like the inspiration that I got then, and again, I was so immature in my like cooking experience, and still am in some ways. But was like, you'd read cookbooks and you'd be like, oh, I want to make a lamb dish like that, or oh, I want to do this. I remember I would sit at Barnes and Noble because I couldn't afford cookbooks, and I would just put a pile around me and just like inhabit Barnes and Noble on my day off. And you would think you would get inspired by those things, but now I get inspired by like talking to other people. And I learned this great lesson. I worked. And I was partners with, like he was like a second father figure to me named Rich Melman. Okay. He founded Let Us Entertain You. And, You know, like it was like breaking a wild stallion. Yeah, now I'm referring to myself as a wild stallion, which is great.
Look at this, guys.
No,
Giddy up.
but like
We ride till dawn.
Exactly. I am that good looking. But like I had this very fine dining mentality, and I have never met anyone with a better palate than Rich. Okay. Incredible, and just this mind like Willy Wonka. And he loved food. And
so if you have an incredible palate, that means you can pick up the different subtleties of the flavors?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And he wasn't a chef, a businessman, obviously, lots of restaurants and just a visionary. But he could eat things, and he had this really interesting palate because he could pick up things that you're like, I added 1 gram of this to this 1,000-gram recipe, and he would like be able to pick it up.
Oh, wow.
But he also had this really unique ability to, and it sounds like a dig, but it's not, to have like the common person's palate, right? To understand like just like a delicious burger, like a Caesar salad, right? And so when we originally met, I was working in a lot of fine dining restaurants, and he broke this idea that everything had to be complex, and you had to like add these crazy flavors and crazy techniques and crazy this to get this crazy result, because again, I would say the ego driven dining, right? They're like, make a grilled cheese sandwich, right? Okay, good bread, get good cheese, get good butter, have a cast iron pan. Like, don't make it, stop making it complicated, right?
Yeah.
And before you're like, oh, well, I'm going to make the bread, I'm going to do this, I'm going to like put these spices in, and it was for me, and so I could brag about it as opposed to just making something good, right? And so when I find inspiration, I talk to people. I'm like, well, what's your favorite donut? What's your favorite this? And I love hearing what other people who aren't jaded by the restaurant industry, right? Because I'm biased. I have my own opinions. I've been around it. I live it all the time. Like a maple bacon donut, which we will most likely have, right?
Of course you'll have.
But I don't understand it, right? Like, why would you put maple and bacon together in a donut? Like none of it. And I think it's so overplayed, but it's overplayed to me because I'm in it every day, right? I'm sure there's things in hiking that you're like, why would anyone do those things? But to them, it's brand new, even though it's 20 years old. Like I walked in Home Depot here in Park City, and there was a freeze dryer for sale, and I texted 2 of my mentors, who now one is, I think, the greatest restaurant in at least America. If not, it's a Japanese restaurant. His name is Kyle. It's called Single Thread. If you're in Santa Rosa, unbelievable. The other guy name is Chris Young, and like he is just about the best of the best of the best when it comes to knowledge of food, and wrote the probably most comprehensive cookbook out there. And but I texted them, and I was like, there's a freeze dryer in Home Depot for like $2,000. Like we had like the first one in England at this restaurant, and like we're trying to read manuals on how to use it, and this was 20 years ago. But like it's so funny to see these things that we were so giddy about.
Now
10,
mainstream.
15 years ago. Now they're amazing. Like sous vide is like, like Breville's making thermal circulators, and you're like, So I'm finding that, going back to your question, inspiration comes from everything, whether it's going on a hike and just like looking, it sounds so artsy, but like looking at a field and being like, oh, like this is peaceful. I like peace. There's this, connection of this thought, because as you can tell, as I ramble, my mind moves 1,000 miles a minute. Or just talking to someone and being like, oh, my favorite donut's a maple bacon donut. Be like, awesome. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, and I'm really big on textures.
No, I'm
and
huge
so
on texture.
They're like, oh, because of this texture and this texture. And then I'm like, all right, great. Now I understand the textures and the flavor components, and I understand it's a donut. And so that allows me then to be creative. Say, okay, well, like they really like the crispy, but they don't like the fatty. They like the sugar. They like the caramel. They like this. And then that allows me to sort of create something, hopefully that's good.
Did you know that my favorite donut is a cake donut? Like just plain cake donuts.
Love it.
I absolutely love them. And whenever I go to like Voodoo Donuts or all like the woo-woo things that are all fancy schmancy out there, and they have 5,000 decorations on them, a cake.
Yeah.
I'm a plain cake girl.
Something, simplicity, I think to me is sophistication, right? It's it's easy to hide behind a lot of layers of things. And I'm not trying to just be mean towards anything else like that, because I was one of those people where it was always adding. But I look at pastry I look at Japanese food, right? It's about subtracting things, like starting with the best possible ingredients, put them together, and just like, what can we take out of this? And so when it comes like my favorite donut is an old-fashioned glazed, right? And it has to be like the floured out and just the pieces that are so bad for you to like, just like they're just greasy, sugary, but like the crunchiness going back to the texture.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like something that's too elaborate, it takes the nostalgia away from me, especially when it comes to the donuts, right? And that's like the emphasis of Chomp Donuts is like remaking these American classic donuts. And it's really cool because you have this inspiration of my partners, Rick and Leah and Jeremy and everybody else and Mike and like, so you have this outside perspective, which they're not restaurant people, right?
Right.
But they're the most motivated individuals and
Motivated individuals ever, in case anybody wanted to know.
If you ever
needed anything, if you had that team, you would get everything.
Well, it's shocking because like I can outwork most people, right? And not like outwork in, I guess, in like a financial situation, right? Like don't give me an Excel sheet. But when it comes to like just physically laboring, like or moving fast or juggling balls, like I'm great. And then like you meet Rick and Rick's like sprinting with me and I'm like, and it's like one of those things you're like, you're not supposed to be here. Like, why are like
by myself in this space.
is great. And like just like full commitment. And I'll take a minute to like thank them of like,
yeah,
it's having like partners, going into business with people is new. It's like a relationship. It's like a marriage. And it's like, you don't even really date. You're like married.
We're in.
Here's a lease, right?
Yeah.
And, you kind of know people as friends, but like, as you know, like working with friends is.
Yeah, when you peel back the layer. Right.
And then like, it's so funny just like, and you're like, all right, well, like here's a leap of faith. We'll move to Park City. We'll do all these things. I have a 5-month-old baby and a wife and who knows, we don't know anyone here. And we kind of, did that. And to have partners who were just like, I think Rick has called it bar fight friends, bar fight friend is you don't ask questions, you just do it. And afterwards you're like, why did we do this?
Was this the plan?
I don't know. You seem to be doing it. And so, but they absolutely, everyone involved in it and, is just been so supportive and amazing. And they've all just, I've never been with a group of people who have just like grabbed the 100-pound weight, jumped in the deep end and are like, let's do this. And it makes me so motivated and inspired to do this. From staffing, like we interviewed 200 people to hire 15.
I know, like let's talk, like let's not breeze over that because we're going over a lot of topics fast. But so 200 people to pick 15 because culture's so important.
Yeah, and I think that's going back to like where this idea came from.
Yeah, let's do that.
And so I've done everything from 3 Michelin star fine dining to artisan pizzerias to TV shows to big box restaurants with wood fire grills, and I've worked with the best of the best. And whether it comes from fine dining or, like I said, like let us entertain you. And I had this like really nice reset right before. We had I didn't have it, but my wife had the baby, right?
Yeah.
I just held her hand. But like, what do I want to do next? And I think it's like, it's a terrifying question, and I think it's one of those things that I don't think a lot of people get to ask themselves.
They don't ask themselves because they're so afraid of it. So they just keep doing what they do.
It's hard, right? And I look back and again, going back to nostalgia, and maybe it's because I'm older and getting gray, but this idea of like, what was important to me when I was a kid, and whether it was like being outdoors. And there was this donut shop where I grew up. And I remember we would like skateboard at 2 a.m. We'd sneak out and hang out and we'd buy like a gallon of milk and this, the donut shop owner would just come out and give us fresh donuts at like 2:30 in the morning when they were making them. And it was just blown away because I would go to that donut shop all the time when I was a kid and they weren't ever that good. But when I had them at 2 a.m. it was like,
well, everything at 2 a.m. is a little bit better. I mean, Denny's is good at 2 a.m. Let's be honest.
Denny's is good at 8 a.m. And it was one of those things that it seemed to be the food that made people the happiest.
Yeah.
And if I showed up at your door randomly with a bag of burgers and I'm like, here you go. You're like, what are you doing on my property? Get away from me. But if you had donuts, you'd be like, you can leave those, but you have to go. They're just such a fun food. They're not a fad. They're not, this sort of like viral sensation. They're donuts, and there's this like heart and soul of America of like,
definitely.
This one company starts with a D, runs on donuts, right? And so this is the idea of it was taking the experience of the fine dining and what I missed in restaurants is hospitality. And being nice to people, right? And I think we live in this world where people are just glued to their cell phones. They're not engaging. They're not interacting with people. And clearly, I like talking to people. And I've had so many bad experiences in restaurants or resorts or things like this where like if you go to England, you're a server, like it's like a noble profession. Like people are career servers, and they go to school for it. Like it's a thing, right? And here it's like, what do you want? And you're like, and then they're like, here's a tip screen, and you're like, cool. And we started this whole thing like we're gonna take a fine dining approach, not with like the food per se, but this like mentality of team, hospitality, expectations, like, and bring it to a donut thing. And with that idea, we took this corner location, was where the old Subway was. It's in Kimball Junction, 1612 West Jude Boulevard.
Better be there.
Yeah, better be there. But it's an interesting location because it's a triangle, right? And it's weird to kind of lay out. And we're like, what if we just put the kitchen and glazing and coffee all in the front in the corner? And so now where anyone at any point can come watch us make donuts throughout the day. We're going to make them throughout the day. It's not going to be one batch. So you're going to see real chefs making real donuts, real glazes, opening real vanilla beans, making real caramels, making, real curds, like taking fine dining and like recipes, everything that I made from like the pastry world of fine dining, from the custards, the curds, the chocolates, all those things. And then we're going to put it on the simplicity of donuts.
And we're going to suck out all the fat so you can have as many as you want. You won't even know.
Exactly. I think that's actually, donuts aren't bad for you.
They're not. They're
going to hike with you afterwards.
Yes. So free hikes with Jen after Chomp Donuts. Perfect.
And then it goes everything from the packaging to the culture is like we kind of reinvented the donut box, and it's really cool. We went this like very simple blue, and then going back to the culture is, Rich, taught, this thing at Let Us Entertain You that they call like a 51-49. You hire on like a 51% like emotional maturity, personality, like a good person, and a 49% technical ability. And it's always resonated with me of like, I can teach anyone anything. I can teach you how to make donuts. Give me a week, great donut maker, right? But I can't teach you how to be a kind individual, right? I can't teach you how to be nice and outgoing. And so the first thing I was told by all my chef friends and everyone here is, labor is going to be so hard. It's it's a trouble. You're going to have to get all these people. It's no one here is a good worker or whatever it is. And I think that's such a lie.
It is.
Right? It's like
it is. You can create the culture.
Someone with nothing, and I will make them a tremendous chef.
Yeah.
Right. And as long as they have the will, and that's just me. Is like, I'm going to try. I'm not going to go to be at anything, right? I tell my wife this all the time. I'm trying my hardest, right? You may be mad at me now because I left a bunch of things open. I'm notorious for leaving,
cupboards open and drawers open. And I have a son like that. I'm like, Josh is home.
I'm so ADD, I don't even notice it. I'm like, but like, it's this idea of like, if you show up every day and you want to be there and you're nice to people and you're kind, and I'll show you the world. I'll give you 110% every day. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we promised the staff. We paid better than anybody. We looked at what everyone else was paying, and we did multiple dollars more. We offered health insurance. We did all these things, this investment of and we told everyone, if you invest in yourself, we'll invest in you. Mm-hmm. And I really mean that of the more someone's trying to get better, the more we will try to make them be better, right? And give them opportunity. And we have the coolest team. I'm so excited about them. And they're like this motley crew of people. There's this one, donut chef who, he's from South Africa, and he's like, oh yeah, we got third in the national, the worldwide pastry competition in Dubai. I'm like, what?
Well, how is he here?
Bodybuilder, and I'm like, you're gonna get fat, and these are donuts, right? You should have your own show. He's like, oh, I'm so excited, we hired such a caliber of people.
How did you find these people?
We just interview after interview after interview.
Wow.
And yeah, we are just I mean, even if we have no one show up the first day, I'm going to be so happy that I get to hang out with all these people. They're so cool. We took a long time to find the right people.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good lesson for all of us, right? If you take the time on the front end, you save so much heartache and headache on the back end. And it really just establishes this is who we are, this is how we're going to operate, invest in you, we'll invest in you, and then it just cultivates that culture, and it's easier to attract.
Yeah. And it's up to the leaders, it's I think it's a cop-out when people are I'm not here to motivate people. People are supposed to motivate themselves. And you're just it's a lie.
No,
these people are here to learn, that's the trade-off is we're going to pay them as much as we can as a donut shop, but the trade-off is I need to be there every day teaching them, right? And inspiring them, and they need to have an avenue for trying new things. We told all these employees, hey, we have this system of if you want to make a donut or collaborate with a donut or something, like we will schedule a time where we will pay you to work with me or work with, our chef that we hired to come up with this recipe, like take your idea and put it on a plate. And it's not like come on your day off, come and do these things. Like we want you to create things too. And like, they were like, what? And so like this idea is like, it's not just like me with a stick leading the charge. Like I want, like if I would be so happy if a year from now, none of the recipes were mine and they were all the people from the place and they were the best recipes and that I had a hand in like starting that spark. But a year from now it was, oh, this is Jim's recipe. This is, Sarah's recipe. This is this person's recipe. And like it became that because then everyone there would have ownership of that donut or that coffee drink or that beverage. And it would be like, that is what team is.
I see a recipe competition coming up in our future.
Every day, yeah. Like, we're going to do it. Every day there's a competition and one person gets voted off the island.
Off the island, no donuts for you. How dare you? I love
Into the cold.
Into the cold. Oh, this is awesome. Okay, so the donut shop is waiting for permits. We are hoping we're going to open in the next couple of weeks. And until then, we follow the website, or how do we stay in touch with everything that's going on?
So our Instagram is at Chomp Donuts. So CHOMP DONUTS.
Can't believe that wasn't taken.
It's
way to go.
Wild, right? So our Instagram there right now, we're not posting anything, but our social media is going to be packed with recipes, videos. Like if you think that we are taking the time to interview people and to design things and to make a beautiful shop, and then we're just going to like use iPhone pictures, sorry, Apple. But like this idea, like we are going to put energy into everything we do. And so like, we're going to have just incredible food smut, right? Like we're going to have all those things. We have a website. It has a countdown on it. We're hoping to launch September 15th. So we're already training people. We have managers. We're getting all the staff. We are doing partnerships with this amazing coffee roaster, Mill Creek Coffee in Salt Lake City. It's a family-owned company, but they're roasting our coffee. We're actually doing a field trip as an entire team to go see it. So, I hope that you guys get inspired and come eat some good donuts in Park City.
I love this. You guys, we got to meet Jeff, Chomp Donuts. It's amazing. I'm so excited. I will definitely be adding more physical activity to my routine so that I can stay in shape and still eat the donuts.
See, we'll do a hike that starts there. You eat the donuts. You have to go up the hill. Then you have to eat more donuts and go back up the hill. And
just how many laps you want to do. So how many donuts you take is how many laps you get to do. Awesome.
Net positive.
I love it. Thanks, Jeff.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. All right, friends, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and we'll see you next week. I want one of those donuts so bad, I can taste the donut.